Now we are at the penultimate level, and unfortunately there is no dialogue before this one because we've already exhausted all of the story. We did have to super run across that bridge, by the way, because we wouldn't have been able to cross it without taking damage otherwise. And now there are lava trolls, and they hate being cooled off, which is a lie. You can pelt them with as many ice lasers as you want, and it will still take forever for them to go down. You can even kill them faster with your fists. But you should be aware by now that enemy design is not this game's strong point. This game doesn't have many strong points, in fact, but this level isn't exactly bad. It is rather generic feeling, much like the last one, and it doesn't have cutscenes to make up for that. Still, it's mostly inoffensive even if it doesn't have any special gimmicks like using all 3 ammo types. Over here to the right is an extra life, one of my favorite extra lives in the game, because of the jump you have to perform to make it. CID the Dummy doesn't ask you to do a lot of tricky jumps, but in the final level we'll be seeing a fair share of them. One of the things we'll be doing most in this level is dealing with hot platforms, and usually the freezing laser is how we'll deal with ones we actually need to step on. Another thing we'll be doing a lot of in this level is fighting enemies. We're going to exhaust quite a few of our orbs fighting enemies here. I believe we'll only have around 40 left by the end. We're still going to do what we can to preserve them, like taking this guy out by punching him instead of using our special attack. You could take out most of the enemies by punching them if you were willing to sacrifice more lives. But I'd rather save our lives for the final level. This platforming section right here where we hop back and forth, just gotta be careful not to accidentally touch the wall of lava, which is harder than it seems. And then there's already some more mandatory combat right here, and this time we're not going to be able to take both of them out with our fists. We're going to have to use that panic attack. There's another enemy type in this level besides the lava trolls. It's not like the lava trolls are that different from every other enemy type, and right here you'll see, after I'm done punching this crouton, that the lava does not actually kill us instantly, which is something we should be grateful for. Because I tried to drop down onto a platform and whoops! Yeah, the lava is not instant death, but there are instant death jumps in this level. This level did seem, when I first played it, to be quite a step up in difficulty from previous ones, which I suppose is the point, but the ice level wasn't all that hard. We need to cool down these platforms, but we also had to destroy those fire trolls or we couldn't proceed at all. This level is very adamant about not letting you run past enemies, which makes me question the game design of previous levels. Because in previous levels you were obviously meant to fight the enemies, but you didn't have to. And now they're making you. So were they aware that you were just going to run past all those enemies? That doesn't seem to be the case. So maybe they did expect you to fight all the enemies, but at the same time they thought you wouldn't notice if they made some of them mandatory to fight because you were fighting all— oh my god, Cid, what are you doing? There are a few glitches like that where Cid's character model will act very strange. None of them have been game-breaking so far, but there was one in the ice level. Here's a new enemy disguised as an old enemy. They look a lot like those guys we saw back in the sewer, but they fire laser beams out of their faces. And that makes them the most dangerous foe in the game so far. It really would have been nice if that guy got his own introduction like all the other enemies, because, you know, you won't get surprise lasered in the face that way. The game will let you know ahead of time. But the rest of the enemy bios weren't very reliable, so maybe you wouldn't trust that one even if it did tell you that guy shot lasers. I would go into detail about how it violates the trust between game designer and the player, but I mean, I get the impression that they just didn't know any better, so I can't be too harsh. It was nice of those guys to let me use their head to jump on. I recall this platforming section very fluidly because I always hit my face on the wall of lava. Not so this time. I beat you this time, wall of lava. Now we've got some more platforms that need to be cooled down, and we don't actually have to fight the lava trolls this time. I don't know why we don't have to fight them this time when we did last time. But there's not a lot of rhyme or reason to many things in CID the Dummy. Here's a bit of an odd challenge, but one I quite approve of, because I like the idea of testing all of your game mechanics, even ones that you don't use very often, like hugging walls. I suppose it only makes sense because there hasn't been much stealth lately, has there? So even though there isn't stealth, they still want you to hug the walls, it's just you'll be doing it for a very different reason now. And it's probably the more traditional reason to hug walls, considering this is a 3D platformer. These croutons take a surprising amount of hits. And down here is more unavoidable combat. But this is going to seem like nothing when we get to the final level. The final level really pulls out all the stops. Took me around 40 minutes, and way longer than 40 minutes when I first tried it. There are a few tricky jumps across lava in this section, as you just saw. But after you get past the Swamp Temple, you've pretty much seen it all. You're ready. The platforms do bob up and down, but, you know, you should know by now. You jump when the platform you're on is at the highest point. Any other platformer could have told you that much. I wonder if Sid the Dummy is anyone's first platformer, if this was their first experience with the genre, either 2D or 3D, since the game has a fair mix of both. Although there is fire coming from the roots of these spikes right here, the fire doesn't appear to do anything. We can't, like, jump up to hit it, and even if we could, we would hit the spikes before the fire. So when I was looking through more reviews of this game, I noticed a couple of things. One of them was that someone said Crash Dummies used to be popular in general, which I don't remember that, but maybe I wasn't alive. One of the other things I noticed, though, was that some of the reviews used screenshots of levels that didn't appear to be in the game. Some more driving levels, you know, like the one back in the first world. And that makes me wonder whether those were exclusive to the PSP version, or if they were just cut out before the game's release. Because this game seems to be almost entirely the same as the others, but no one's played the PSP version long enough for me to be absolutely sure. I can definitely say that the computer version is the same as this version. I do recall reviewers saying that the visuals were perfectly acceptable for the PSP version, which, I mean, I'm sure they were. This bridge is a bit mean, because unless you stop on a dime, you're going to run into the lava flows right here. Which, you know, you're not going to stop on a dime because you're using the super run. These molten pillars aren't particularly challenging in any respect. You can't jump on them, by the way. I've tried. You can't jump on them to make it go faster. The platforming does start to get a bit more challenging right around here. Not just because the croutons don't give us a lot of space, but when we use this spring, we're on rotating platforms and we have to jump between them while there's fire spouting up. And getting the timing down is actually something difficult because these rotating platforms really fling you unless you're in the air. And here's one of the instant death jumps in the game. But that was entirely my bad. This time, though, we will perform adequately, even though this second platform flips when we get close to the end. Reacting to that in time can be quite the challenge, since you don't have much time to figure out it's coming, and we died again, but we did just pass a checkpoint. This means we've lost 2 lives to this level, but we're about to get another one. Right through here. So we're still in the green, we're still good. But this small section in general seems to give me quite a bit of trouble. I just can't seem to make my way past these molten pillars, because these ones, for some reason, do give me a lot of trouble. The idea, I believe, is that you're supposed to use your super run to make your way past them. But, I was not functioning at full capacity for whatever reason, so it did not occur to me to try this. So I decided to hurt myself intentionally and use the invincibility frames to make my way through, since I was going to inevitably get hurt a ton more anyway. And there is a health refill right here. And now you'll get to see me hit my face on the wall of lava like I was talking about. I could have sworn I had that jump lined up perfectly, but apparently not. That can happen a lot in this level. It has happened a lot to me, and I can't tell if that's my fault for having poor depth perception. There's a minor gauntlet right here of 4 enemies, all of them which need to be fought. You can't proceed until they go down. But now we're all done with me embarrassing myself, so even though there is some tricky platforming up ahead, like these molten pillars right here, I don't seem to have any trouble with these ones. The timing on these just may be much more lenient, I don't know. And here's one of my favorite sections of the level, where we hop back and forth using these rotating platforms. Of course, I just kind of mash the jump button when I'm on the rotating platforms to stop myself from falling off. But I kind of like rotating platforms in 3D platformers in general. Though I guess those were more 2D, weren't they? Because you only move left to right with those. No, wait, that's wrong. That's what they want you to think. They want you to think those sections are in 2D so that you hit your face on the wall of lava. I'm not gonna fall for it again. You can't trick me into ignoring that your third dimension exists, which is good because this next section heavily requires it. And this section is pretty snazzy, requires some good timing so that way you don't jump through the gear at the wrong time and end up in the lava. I really like it. It's pretty handy. And we got a free extra life. That extra life was pretty much just sitting there for us. Here's Mr. Madness again for, I believe, the second time, and we just destroyed him with the super attack again before he could even hit us. I wish this level had more machinery in it like those gears back there. It would add a lot to this level's aesthetic. I believe that was the last bit of mandatory combat in the game, but now we're down to 40 orbs, which is not great, but we have a huge stockpile of lives for the final level.
I'm surprised you made it this far. You've excelled yourself and the Professor. But I think your circuits are about to get overloaded.
Do you really think I'm scared of someone with hair like yours?
How dare you insult me? I'm going to wipe that plastic smile off your face!
This boss is, like most of them, startlingly easy. In his first phase, he's invincible until we freeze him. Thankfully, there is plentiful freezing ammo for us. He takes 10 to 11 shots to be frozen, and then we can wail on him a couple of times before he breaks out. The main challenge here, I believe, is just not to get overzealous with our punches. Which I am guilty of at least a few times, like right here, because I really wanted the boss fight to go faster. But unless you punch this fellow too many times and he hurts you by breaking out, you're all good. He doesn't really have any attacks during this phase, he just slowly walks towards you. So after I wise up and learn not to punch him quite so many times, this battle's kind of slow and easy, really a bit of a slog. A lot of the bosses are slogs, though. The second phase of this boss, I will admit, is actually pretty decent. So let's go ahead and skip there, why don't we? I think this part of the boss fight is actually pretty neat and even fun. The idea is that each time you hit this guy, the platforms change height, so you need to find the highest platform again. But before you get there, you need to make sure he uses his eye laser, because if he uses his eye laser while you're on the highest platform, you won't get a chance to hit him in the eye when he turns around like this. So yeah, it's simple, but it's less simple than the first phase. You do have to actually bait him into using his eye laser ahead of time, or else you won't get a chance to hit him when he's done. You want to shoot as soon as he turns towards you, but if you just feel like spamming the attack button, that works as well. Though the freezing laser ammo is the only way to hurt him here. This second phase also has the distinction of not taking very long to complete, which is quite a change of pace, honestly.